Welcome to Pivot and Passion. I'm your host, Stephanie Cully, and I'm here to help you follow your true purpose. My goal is to help you build unshakable confidence and showcase your strengths. Each episode is filled with inspiration and tips to help you in your career and personal life. So grab your morning cup of coffee or your evening tea and let's dive in. Today, we're talking about how to network without feeling fake. How many of you can relate to this? You reach out to someone related to a job, let's say on LinkedIn, and you send a genuine connection request and a message to them, but it just comes off as inauthentic. We've all been there, and networking can be incredibly difficult in terms of trying to come off genuine. I believe this episode is going to be one of the more popular ones because this is such a common discussion that I have with many of my clients and just people in general that I talk to, especially those who are looking for jobs. So before we dive into some tips on how to network without feeling ick, I'm going to talk to you about why this is important and talk to you a little bit about what networking is and what it is not. So I've said this statistic before, but I'll say it again. And the statistic is that for about 100 jobs that you apply for, you're lucky if you have about 2% of those replying back and giving you an interview. So it's incredibly important, especially in this market, to be using your network to land the job rather than just relying on applying to jobs. In fact, I found a statistic on LinkedIn the other day with a survey that revealed 85% of all jobs are filled via networking. Think about that statistic. That's huge. So if we want to get serious about our job search, then we have to get serious about networking. So let's talk about what networking is and what it is not. So networking isn't just about collecting contacts. It's about making real connections and genuine friendships. When you focus on building meaningful relationships, you create a powerful network of support and success. I want you as a job seeker to realize that networking isn't about just trying to meet as many people as possible. It's about meeting a few well-connected people who can vouch for your ability and who are willing to refer you to other well-connected people. The other thing that networking is not is it's not about just going out and asking for favors. And that's one of the tips that we'll get into a little bit later in this episode. But it is about building a mutual connection with someone. And I love the quote that I heard the other day. Someone had said it on LinkedIn, basically about networking being about building up friendships. It doesn't mean that you have to be best friends with this person, but if you look at it as more friendship building or relationship building, you're going to have way more success and it's actually going to be enjoyable instead of this daunting task that you just have to do. So let's dive into the first tip that I have for you today. I want you to start with people who know, like, and trust you. Don't go out and immediately think that the first person that you need to talk to is some random stranger that you met the other day, or you need to go out on LinkedIn and start talking to people. Yes, that is going to be part of our strategy that we'll get into, but the people that you want to focus on are the people that already know you. Think about it. If you have a complete stranger reaching out to you versus someone that you already know, and you're having a conversation about really anything in general, or it starts getting into a discussion around landing the job, you're more likely to refer someone that you already know. So the reverse is true. If you start reaching out to people that you already know, you've built a relationship. They understand your work ethic and your habits. They understand a little bit more about your goals and what you've done in the past. They're much more likely to refer you and to want to help you versus someone that they may not already know. Now, eventually you can build up that rapport that it gets to a point that they may want to refer you, but that takes a little bit of work, and that's something that we don't want to start with initially. So who are the people that you already know that you can start with? Let's think about it. So do you have anyone that you went to college with that is willing to refer you? Maybe they're already working at a company that you're interested in. What about, do you have professors? If we're getting a little bit further into your work career, you may have rotated around into different companies or different positions. Who are the people that you've worked with that you really enjoyed working together, that they really trust you? You probably can name a couple of people off the top of your head that are willing to do almost anything for you. You just really worked well together and they know that you're someone that's trustworthy and they enjoyed working together and they'd love to refer you if there's a job opening. Some other places that you can dig into, I know some people may frown upon this, but you never know. is I say, even when you think about other people in your network, like let's say a neighbor. Now, when I say this, you want to be strategic. The people who are rolling their eyes are thinking, I'm just going to ask any random neighbor. No, for instance, I have a neighbor who's actually a recruiter. So if you think about it, who are the people that work at companies that you're interested in, who may have similar industries that you work in, or if you're looking to rotate into that industry, who are the people that you can have good conversations with? This doesn't just mean going up to any random neighbor and having a conversation about a job. Now, one thing I will say, you can put it out there. So, for instance, I like to go to family neighborhood gatherings. So, I have a close group of friends, a variety of friends throughout the neighborhood, and some of them are nurses, some of them are in other industries. If you're close enough with these people, you're sharing things about your life, and you may be saying things like, I'm really interested in moving into another job. Like, here's a little bit about what's going on or what I'm looking for. So, say for instance, I have a friend who's a nurse. Who knows? Maybe her brother is someone that's working in IT and I'm looking to get into IT. Now, they have to be willing to make that introduction for you, but because it's someone that you already know, they already know, like, and trust you, they're more willing to do that for you than they are for a stranger. So you just never know. I mean, I have family members that I've talked to, and you'd think maybe a family member, they don't work in the same industry. But guess what? I've gotten my brother a job this way. He works in finance. And at one point, he was looking for a finance job. And I had a friend who's in finance, even though that's not my industry. So I really think it's helpful to talk to people. Like, you don't have to air all of the information about yourself to anyone, but the people that you're close with, share this information. You never know the types of connections that they might have and the willingness to help you. And I want to give an example of this. I gave this example in a previous podcast episode, but yet again, it's still relevant. I had a manager that I used to work with, and I was talking to him about the current job that I was in, explaining how eventually I wanted to move up within my career. And he happened to be hiring for a role. So, what ended up happening was we talked a little bit more about this, and I ended up getting that role through him. Now, this is someone that I know, someone who liked and trusted me because they had worked with me previously. So, this is the perfect example of having conversations, whether this was kind of a out of nowhere, it wasn't even a planned conversation. But if I was actively looking, now at the time I was passively looking, if I was actively looking at the time, I would go and reach out to him. Or if I was actively looking right now, he would be one of the people in my network that I would go and have a conversation with to see, is he currently hiring? Or maybe he knows of someone or knows of someone within the company that he's working for now that is hiring for a role that's related to what I want to do. So that's it for starting with the people that know, like, and trust you. The next thing that I want you to do, point number 2, is I want you to give before you ask for something. This goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Networking is not about asking for favors. Can you ask for favors? Yes, of course you can. But I think the biggest mistake that a lot of people make and why it comes off as feeling fake or inauthentic is because people immediately jump into, what is it that this person can do for me? Rather than thinking about, what are the things that I can do to help them? And you want to be genuine with it. I mean, if you're reaching out to someone, it makes sense to talk to people that you have a genuine interest with, that your values align or your interests align, because it's going to come up as more authentic and it's going to come off as more aligned. You'll be able to help them with things and they may be able to help you as well. There's also the law of reciprocity, a social principle that basically says that people tend to respond to positive action with another positive action. So they're going to reward your kind action with kindness as well. So something to keep in mind. Of course, I don't want you to look at this as just, I'm going to do someone a favor so that they'll do me a favor, but it is part of the way that it can work is by helping other people, just by default, they usually want to help you as well. And if it's someone, if we're going back to working with people that you know that like and trust you, then this is going to come so easily anyway. It's someone that you're friends with or that you're close with, someone that you're going to want to help, and then they're going to want to help you as well. And to put things into perspective, I just want you to think about, what are some of the messages that felt a little bit fake or a little bit, a little bit inauthentic when people reach out to you on LinkedIn or maybe they send you an email? Usually it starts with something about themselves. Then it dives right into what they want from you. They want your business or they want you to do some type of action. Maybe you've had people reach out and say, hey, I see that you work at Pepsi. I'm interested in working here. Can you refer me? Now, think about how that makes you feel. It makes you feel a little bit used. It makes you feel like, hold on a second, I don't even know who this person is. And all of a sudden they're asking me for something. Put yourself in that person's position. I know for me, and I know for a lot of people, they're very protective about their contacts. So even if it's someone that I've worked with before, I'm going to be very cautious about who I refer because that's my reputation. And also, if I want to ask this person or I want to refer another person in the future, if I'm sending them people who aren't really a good fit or who I know wouldn't do a good job, then that makes it look as if I'm not being genuine. And it also puts a bad taste in their mouth. So if someone is going to refer you, they probably have to know a little bit about you because they're not just going to send your name over and put their reputation on the line. And I have an example of this from a business perspective. So I've been going to a lot of events, especially with our local Chamber of Commerce. And I ended up meeting someone who I consider a friend now. So going back to our first principle of talking to people that you know, like, and trust. So this is a girl that I have gotten to know, like, and trust a lot. And even though I genuinely would love for her to help me in my business and to get referrals from her, I'm not automatically going to ask her for things. And the same thing for her is she's looking to place people into positions because she's a recruiter for a certain firm. And so rather than her coming off and immediately asking me, hey, who are the people that you know that can work for my company? That way it will help improve her business or improve the work that she's doing. She started off by referring people to me. I didn't even ask her. She had an idea. She may have asked, what are some things that I can do to help you? And she got to understand a little bit more about what would help me is referrals in my business. If there are people who are looking for jobs, she can send them my way. So by default, she built up that rapport with me. She built up that law of reciprocity and she started sending potential clients my way. I had many conversations with these people who they're looking to transition and they're looking for a career coach to help them. So think about what that's done. That's strengthened the relationship. That's shown that she actually cares and she's trying to help me. And by default, I started to think about, and even before this, I'll say, I started to think about what are some ways that I can help her. I know that she's looking for people who would be a good fit within her company, who would be really great when they train them up and can do a good job in the role. So then I started sending potential candidates her way. So it's really a win-win situation. And it's the same thing when it comes to applying to jobs or talking to people on LinkedIn. Let's say that you're having conversations with people that you don't really know that well. One of the things that you can think about are what are some of the ways that I can help them? And it could be something so small. It could be there's someone who likes to post on social media. They're trying to increase their brand awareness or get people to know more about them. Could you simply like their post? Could you comment on their post to help increase engagement? It could be small little things like that, and it just adds up over time. And this leads me into my next point, which is tip number 3, be strategic. Don't just talk to anyone and everyone. Also be very specific about what it is that you're looking for. So if we're thinking about things like how do you network on LinkedIn, how do you meet new people on there, I want you to be really strategic about who it is that you're talking to. So let's say I'm looking for an IT project manager role. And maybe I'm someone who's just starting out. It would be great if I could talk to people in the industry that I already know. But if I'm starting out, I don't have anyone really to talk to other than maybe I talk through friends and family to see if they know of anyone that could connect me just so I could have, an informational interview and ask them how they like the job and any tips that they have. So what I would want to do is I would want to go out on social media, let's say using LinkedIn, and let's say my dream company is I want to work at Disney and I know that I want to be an IT project manager there. So I go out, I do a search, I look for IT project manager, and then I filter by people who work at Disney. Now I found people that are strategic, people that are specific to the role that I'm in. And maybe it's other people that have a similar position, doesn't necessarily have to be the same, but that's where I would start off if I was someone who was making the transition. And then you want to have very specific conversations and also keep in mind the other points that we talked about. So you may reach out to this person, you want to look through their profile and make sure that what you have to say, it shows that you have a genuine interest in them. You want to pick people that you do have a genuine interest with. So I would say check out a few different profiles. If someone's not really posting much or they seem like they don't align, hey, don't reach out to that person. But there's bound to be someone that you see on there that you can look at their interest. Do they have an interest in some of the same authors or other companies as you? Do they have an interest in the same sports as you, or did they go to the same college? And you're able to use that as a talking point when you reach out to them. Now, if you're not quite sure how to reach out to this person, I do have some freebies. I'm going to go ahead and link it in the show notes. Go ahead and check out my freebie on outreach strategies that will show you how to draft a message to someone, whether you're someone who's transitioning into a different type of industry or you're someone that's already been in that industry, but you're just not sure, how do I connect really well with them? So, just to continue the conversation around what that message might look like, it could have something to the effect of talking about things that you noticed on their profile or their interest, talking about who it is that you are, and stating that you're making a transition or you're looking to get into this company and you just want to know a little bit more. Maybe you ask, I'd love to hear more about what you think of the company culture. You might also ask, how did you get into this company? Or do you have any advice for someone who's looking to make a transition into Disney? These are really simple questions that they can answer. You didn't ask them if they can refer you to a job, if you can give them a whole list of specific advice or how to interview for the job that you're going through. So make it something quick and easy that they can respond to, and make it so that it's not a big ask that they feel like you're asking so much of them. Also, notice that I was very specific in my ask to them. I asked them very specifically, can you tell me more about the company culture? Or can you tell me more about how you were able to successfully transition into a role at Disney? And I have one other example for you of this. Again, I went to a Chamber of Commerce event, and while I was there, it was very interesting to have a conversation with someone about how important it is to be specific about what you're looking for. So for me, another area that I'm looking to get into is I'm trying to talk to colleges because I would like to help college students as well in their transition to get into jobs. So for me, think about these two different asks. If I was talking to some people and asked if they had any contacts, hey, I'm looking to get into colleges to talk about careers. Do you know anyone that works at Drexel University? Okay, that's a little bit specific, but I probably could be even more specific if I asked another question. Now let's think about if I asked, hey, I'm looking to get in. I really would like to do some conversations or do some speaking engagements at Drexel University. Do you happen to know anyone that is in the career services area or someone that works with adult students? That is very specific. Now, they may say no, they may know something more on a broad scale, but at least you've narrowed it down because what happens when they say, yes, I know someone who works in government affairs? Now, you could still use that. That's a starting point to try to get to that person that you're looking for. But if you're telling them that you're looking for someone in career services versus just any, it makes it a lot easier for them to help you. If you don't know what it is that you're looking for or you can't be specific, how can you expect someone to help you? And the last tip that I have for you is to follow up and to definitely stay in touch. As they say, the best time to be networking is when you don't even need a job. But the reality is, you may be someone that's currently looking for a job, and that's okay. Now is the second perfect time, is right now to go out and start building up those connections, talking to people that you knew before, and rekindling those relationships. So if you just went to a meetup event or some other type of event where you met someone, now is the perfect time to make sure that you're following up. I say at the very end, let's say, for instance, I just went to a conference, I met a lot of people. While I was there, I would send them a LinkedIn message or a connection request just so I had them in there. And I would send them a note and say, hey, it was really great talking with you today. I look forward to some future conversations. Now, you don't have to do that. That's just for me from a memorization standpoint. But the next best thing that you could do is you can reach out to them after the fact. So I would say whether you're just getting back home or you want to give it a couple of days or even maybe a week maximum, I would send them a note and say, hey, it was really great chatting with you. I enjoyed chatting about XYZ. Would you be open to grabbing a coffee? Or so if there's someone that's in person, you could say grabbing a coffee. Or would you be open to a virtual coffee chat in the next X number of days? So probably within the next couple of weeks or whatever is appropriate. For me, I just met some people at a conference. I have some things going on. So I said, can we meet up in 2 weeks? I have availability on X date. I'd love to chat with you a little bit more about what we were talking about at the conference. And then here's the thing that's really important. It's really important to stay in touch, especially when we're talking about not wanting to feel like you're being fake in networking. When you're only reaching out to people when you want something, you start to feel like it's not genuine. The other person can sometimes feel like it's not genuine. So that's why I say keep in touch with people. It's also great to just build those relationships, and you never know when they may need something that you can help them with, or vice versa. And one of the best ways to do this is to have something regular on the calendar. So, whether it's someone that you're looking for as a mentor, someone that you just want to keep in touch with that could be a good connection to help you get a job, or maybe you have no specific intentions. It's just someone that you really align well with, and you never know down the line you might be able to help each other out somehow. I say at the end of that conversation that you have, let's say you have a coffee chat, I typically say if I genuinely enjoyed the conversation, and this is important, it's not about just meeting a bunch of people, it's about meeting the right people and continuing to build those relationships. So if it wasn't an enjoyable conversation, or you feel like there's not a lot of value for either of you, there's nothing wrong with going your own ways, thanking them for their time. Don't You don't have to set up another meeting. But I'm talking about for the ones that do actually align, is continue those conversations, and at the very end of the meeting say, "Thank you so much for meeting. I really enjoyed this conversation. I'd love to keep our connection going and love to continue to touch base. How is and it could be every 2 weeks, it could be monthly or quarterly. I think you just have to think about what makes the most sense for you. I would say like the longest period of time would probably be once a quarter. I do have some people that I meet with on a quarterly basis where we're really just trying to help each other out with connections, the contacts that the other person has to refer each other in our business. Then there are other people that maybe you want to build a stronger bond with. That might make sense to do every month or once every 2 weeks. And you want to make sure as you're following up and you're staying in touch that you're sharing updates about your career progress, but you're also asking a lot of questions about them. You have to gauge whether or not they're interested in sharing personal details, but I do think being able to build on some of the personal things that are going in their life, like asking about how things are going with their daughter's softball practice or their daughter's softball games, or maybe they're into tennis. Those are the things that you should be asking about, as well as how are things going in your career? Is there anything that I can help you with? Just continue to nurture and grow the relationship over time. So, those are all of my tips for today. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends or family. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. If you love this episode, then you're going to love my Get Hired book. You can access the ebook version now by going to the link in my show notes. I talk about everything from finding fulfillment to how to get interviews lined up, how to nail the interview, and I even talk about things like salary negotiation. It covers everything that you need to know about how to get hired. I also offer one-on-one career coaching, so if you need a coach, let's have a quick chat to discuss how I can help you achieve your career goals. All you have to do is check out the link to book a call in the show notes. Until next time, have a great day.